Veshavti, Besholom, Part 5. We're up to Zayin, in the beginning of the Maimer, after asking questions on the pasuk Veshavti, Besholom, which is Yaakov's promise as he leaves Beersheva on his way to Haran, where he's making an oath to Hashem of what he'll do if Hashem takes care of him and brings him back home peacefully. And the Rebbe continued to explain that this is something which is not just a story, like all the stories of Torah, that it's are all directives, and so also this is a directive for every Jew. And therefore the Rebbe explains the meaning of Yaakov's leaving Beersheva to go to Haran, how it is in the spiritual worlds, that Beersheva is either the concept of Bina, of understanding, which is a connection to godliness, and he's leaving to go to Haran, to Malchus, where he's involved in the world, but in the world and still in a spiritual manner, or even more than that, that Beersheva is Malchus, that he's leaving the spiritual world completely and going into the physical world. And the Rebbe continued to explain that how does Yaakov leave? Because he realizes that everything, no matter what, is all run by Hashem, and it's all controlled by Hashem, and with that he's able to transform even the physical world and even Lavan and Esav. And then the Rebbe says that in order to do this, Yaakov gets special strength. He gets strength from Hashem, which that's the Shin Ayin Hey, the 375 lights from Arich, which is Keser, the godliness that's above the world, and that comes and strengthens him in order to help him in this state of need in a time when he's going down in order to accomplish his mission. Then the Rebbe continued that the first thing that Yaakov does as he leaves Beersheva is already begin to fulfill his shlichus, to fulfill his mission by taking the stones of the place. Makim, place, is the world. Its truth and reality is godliness, and that's why Makim, in Gematria, the numerical value of Shem Havaya, but it's even that, it's not the numerical value in a direct way. If in order to do that, one has to times the letters of Hashem's name, each one by itself. Avne is the stones, the inanimate objects, and not only that, but in a manner of plural, Yaakov takes them all and makes them into one, bringing them in a way that they all recognize the godliness that it's in them, to the extent that through that they can go above the head of Yaakov or even lift up the head of Yaakov. Now the Rebbe continues in Oz Zayin that these three concepts, which are Yaakov's leaving Beersheva in order to go to Haran, number two is what he does once he leaves, that he takes the stones of the place. And number three is that through his tefillah, through his davening, these stones become all one, that they're able to become completely unified in the oneness of Hashem. All of these are applicable in every single Jew. And that especially we see with the fact that all the Avos, all of our forefathers, everything that they do, as we mentioned earlier, is a sign for their children. But in addition to that, we know that just as Adam Arishain, the neshama of Adam Arishain was a general neshama, that every single neshama that follows in the course of history can be found, as we see in the writings of the Arizal, that you can find the place of every neshama inside the neshama of Adam Arishain. The Gemara tells us, Shufrei, the Yaakov, the beauty of Yaakov Avinu was similar to the beauty of Adam Arishain, which Chassidus explains that this means that Yaakov was the same neshama klalis, the same general neshama as that of Adam Arishain, that includes all the neshamas. Just as Adam Arishain, the first man, in his neshama, there's also all the other neshamas that follow. So also in Yaakov Avinu, since we're all called the children of Yaakov, every single neshama that follows is all included in that neshama of Yaakov Avinu. So when Yaakov Avinu does something, it's not only that it's a sign for his children, it's not only that it gives the power for his children, but his doing it, his neshama doing it, means that all the neshamas are included in it. And later on, as our neshamas come into the world, we also fulfill the same thing that Yaakov Avinu already began and did this for us. What is this idea of Vayetze Yaakov mi Beersheva vayelech Haran? Similar to how we learned it up until now. That's the fact that the neshama comes down into the body, that it goes from a very high roof and it goes down into the deep pit. It's coming from Beersheva. Just like Yaakov Avinu, who was coming from Eretz Yisrael, from the place of Avram and Yitzchak, from the place of spirituality, and he had to go down to the lowest place, so also every neshama comes from a place where it's completely connected to Hashem, where it feels godliness and spirituality, and it has to go down into the physical world where it's in Charon, where it's in a place that godliness isn't revealed. And just as we said, that this is the mission of Yaakov Avinu to go there in order to fulfill his mission. And in order to do that, Tzave Yeshuas Yaakov, Hashem commands, meaning Hashem connects and forces or commands these great spiritual light to come in order to give power to Yaakov in his time of need, when he needs this extra power. Not only as a result of him fulfilling his mission, he gets to a higher level. But even more than that, in order to fulfill his mission, he gets these extra special koiches. In the same manner, also every single Jew, when he leaves Beersheva, he leaves this great place of where the neshama is above, and he comes down in order to be in this bira mikta, in the deep pit, where he has to refine and elevate his body and his animal soul and his part in the physical world. In order to do that, Hashem gives special koiches. These special koiches is also what's called Be'er Sheva. What are these strengths? We find in the beginning of Tanya, the Alter Rebbe starts off the words of Tanya with the words Mashbi'im Oisai. This is the beginning of everything that the Alter Rebbe teaches us in Tanya. The Alter Rebbe in Tanya is teaching us how to fulfill our mission in this world. But before he even tells us this, he gives us the realization that even before the neshama comes down into this world, it's given power in order to be able to fulfill its mission. And what is that power? It's in a way of mashbim. And the Tzemach Tzedek explains that the idea of mashbim, there's three parts in that. Mashbim, the word mashbim comes from the word shvua. And as we explained already earlier, with regards to Avram Avinu's Beersheva, the word shvua is an oath. An oath is something that gives a person extra strength. Find it even practically in a person. Why does a person make an oath? Just say, I'm going to do it. What's the point of making an oath? Because when a person makes an oath, he's reaching into a deeper part of his soul, and he's getting extra strength and sustenance from a deeper part of his essence that's connected to something higher, to something greater, that's connected to its source. So also when the neshama comes down, it's made to swear. What's the point of the oath? Of the fact that it swears? It's bringing out a deeper and stronger power within the neshama itself, which comes from the essence of the neshama. The second meaning of the word shvua comes from the word soiva, to satiate, that not only does the neshama receive this power of revealing its essence, and the reason why its essence becomes revealed is because it's going down now in order to fulfill a mission. In order to do a mission, Tzave Yeshuas Yaakov, in order to fulfill a mission, the person reaches his ultimate and true power that's inside him, because now he's about to go down and fulfill the mission. The real power that a person has is in order that he should be able to fulfill his mission. And therefore, once he's about to fulfill his mission, that's when he reaches and connects to the very essence of who he is and the powers that he has. And similarly, the second meaning of the word shvua, which is soiva, satiate. The neshama is satiated, becomes satisfied and filled with strength and power. And as we said earlier in the Maimer, Tzave Yeshuas Yaakov, in order for a person to be able to fulfill a mission, he's now filled with all the necessary powers that he needs, which otherwise he may not reach them. And so also is the word sheva. Shvua comes also from the word Sheva, which is 7. There's 7 attributes that the soul has, which are the 7 channels that draw down powers from above. But like we said earlier, that the Shin Ayin Hey Nahayrin the Arich is magnifying those powers. The 7 come to their full power of 70, and they connect also to the 300, the intellect from which they come, because in order to fulfill the mission, the person gets the magnifying of everything that he has, that it becomes magnified fully. And that's these concepts that happen, that the neshama receives this special power in order to go down, just as Yaakov Avinu received the 375 lights of Arich, the channels of light of Arich, so also every neshama, in order to go down into this world, gets Be'er Sheva to give it its power to go to the lowest place, and even there, not only even there, but specifically there to be able to fulfill the mission. Now in Ois Ches, the Rebbe continues to explain what is the mission, what is the avodah of the neshama coming down into this world. And the Rebbe speaks about generally 2 concepts and 2 aspects of what the neshama has to do in this world. One is the regular thing, the normal thing, Torah and mitzvahs. Studying Torah and doing mitzvahs, which is something that the neshama can't do when it's up there, because both Torah and mitzvahs came down into the physical world to be involved with physical objects and with physical things, and that's why only coming down here can the neshama fulfill Torah and mitzvahs. And through the neshama coming down into this world and doing Torah and mitzvahs, learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, is it able to reach a higher level than before it came down into this world. That's one concept. A second concept that the neshama does in this world is not just something which is for itself, not only learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, which are considered to be the garments of the neshama, which only through them can the neshama be able to receive its eternal reward in Gan Eden and be able to enjoy and have pleasure from the shine of the Shekhinah, from the essence of Hashem that it receives as a result of the Torah and mitzvahs, because the neshama can connect to Hashem only through its Torah and mitzvahs. But something even greater than that, which is not for the neshama, but rather it's in order to accomplish its mission. Not only learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, but being involved with elevating and refining the physical world. Now, how does a person elevate and refine the physical world? That happens primarily through doing mitzvahs, because mitzvahs are involved with physical things, although the Torah also talks about physical things. But when learning Torah, one isn't actually involving themselves with the physical world. But with doing mitzvahs, a person actually gets involved in the physical world and is involved with physical things, and even more than that, through Kol Ma'asecha L'Shem Shamayim. Not only when a person actually is doing mitzvahs, but even through all of a person's actions. But when they're done for the sake of heaven, and even more than that, when a person actually B'chol D'rachecha Deyu, in your ways itself, you know Hashem. And the Rebbe says that this is why we say V'nasan li lechem lechel uveged lilbish Veshavti Besholom el Beisavi. Yaakov Avinu asks for bread to eat and garments to wear, which that, like we explained earlier, is Torah and mitzvahs. Torah is the bread of a person, and mitzvahs is the garments that the neshama wears. But even more than that, Veshavti Besholom, a return in peace. Peace is the avodah of refining and elevating the physical world, bringing godliness into the physical world, connecting the physical world to Hashem. That's what we call avodah sabirurim. And it's interesting that these are actually the 2 concepts that we spoke about earlier. In Yaakov's leaving Beersheva and going to Haran, there's the Beersheva of Avram, which that's when the neshama leaves its understanding of godliness. It leaves its place where it's learning and understanding about Hashem. And it goes down in order to be involved in Malchus, in bringing godliness into the physical world, but in a godly way, where it's still in the world of Atzilus. There's the Beersheva of Yitzchak, which is leaving even that world of Atzilus totally and having to be involved with the physical world itself. Which that's the second idea of Veshavti Besholom el Beisavi. It's interesting that when we speak about Avram and Yitzchak, when we're talking about this mimer that was said on Tes and Yud Kislev, which has to do specifically with the Mittler Rebbe, Avraham Avinu of Chassidus is the Alter Rebbe, the idea of Chachma, which the concept of Chachma, as we said, is when there's still the connection to Hashem. It's not yet the idea of coming down into the world. Yitzchak Avinu of Chassidus is the idea of Bina, which the result, what the outcome of that is coming into the world. And it's interesting that we know that Yud Kislev is called the birthday of a Chassid, whereas Yud Tes Kislev is the day of the bris of a Chassid. The bris is Chachma, the connection that a person feels, the ultimate connection with Hashem. Birthday is when a person's born, coming into the physical world, which that's something which comes as a result of Bina, of understanding, which is the level of the Mittler Rebbe. As a result, a person leaves that Be'er Sheva and goes to Charan and is able to be involved not only in spiritual things, but in elevating and refining the physical world, both through doing mitzvahs with physical objects, and even more than that in a person's life, everything he does is l'shem shamayim, for Hashem, and in his actions themselves he knows Hashem.